Welcome back. We're glad you're still watching Morning at NTV this 30th day of May 2023. 2023 is about to be sliced in half, and I've always asked people, when the year inches forward, you begin to quickly look at some of the things that you said at the beginning of the year to work on, to be, and whether you are actually scoring 50+%. Now, that is a food for thought. Right now, we are taking note of the fact that there are cracks in the implementation of the parish development model. It is a case of what can be achieved, what should be achieved, and the how. Before I introduce my guest, let me just take you through the conceptualization of the PDM as a last-mile strategy for service delivery and the improvement of incomes and welfare of Ugandans at household level as envisaged and propped by the President of the Republic of Uganda. The economy has 7 pillars, and currently the government says PDM in its maiden year is fronting financial inclusion, a revolving fund as a flagship for the program, and subsequently 17 million has been earmarked for each revolving fund. There's a lot that is going on with regard to parish development model. Chris Higenyi might not be sufficiently educated to help you understand what can be done best for the average Ugandan to be able to benefit from it. But David Kabanda, the Executive Director at the Center for Food and Adequate Living Rights, has every aspect of competence to help us wade through this. A very good morning, Mr. Kabanda.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
I'm fine.
I've put you in a tight spot.
Yeah.
The parish development model implementation has caused a lot of attention. The President is concerned about the fact that some of the aspects that he thought would be pretty simple are not being taken seriously. First and foremost, before we even discuss whether it will be achieved or not, what is your take on the process so far?
The process is rolling out. We have been in communities and we have clearly seen that at least that financial pillar, the third pillar, financial inclusion, in some parishes, people have started getting money.
Oh, okay.
We have also interfaced with some who have actually got the money. Of course, with too many other issues coming in, and for us, we don't think the issue is just the money, because having a car without fuel, it's as if you do not have a car. So already, the implementation of that pillar has started being rolled out in many communities, and we think, by the way, where we start from as civil society, because when you read from the PDM and it's set up, the role of civil society is clear cut. That civil society can come on board, do sensitization, trainings and everything. We clearly see that this ought to be a very good model, by the way. For us, we have even made a conclusion that it can be a panacea.
Ah,
yeah,
okay.
It can. Yeah, it can get people
sickness as a country.
Yes,
economic.
The economic, but even social. You know, sometimes if you have some money in your pocket, the social life is rubricated.
I understand.
Yeah.
I can see it. Okay, so that means, of course, adequate living and availability of food, which is central to food security, and food security is integral to economic sustainability, is pretty much what you are working on in terms of your, your cluster.
Yeah, Chris, many people have asked us already, okay, you are the Center for Food, Mr. Kabanda.
It's what I'm trying to.
Yes, we only know you. You've been here telling us, eat this, eat that, don't do this, get a law for food. When you read the parish development model, maybe let me start from the National Development Plan. That's where it comes from.
I hope you don't confuse us.
Yes, I'm not confusing anyone. We have a program on agro-industrialization. Now, they bring you the parish development model as a vehicle to get us from poor living, poor standards of living, into a promised land of having adequate living. And by the way, that is our organization. Although our front main issue is food, but we generally work on adequate living, making sure that everyone lives in a life that is not below what we call, you know, below the basics. So, but when
basic decency.
Yeah, people should be able to feed themselves in dignity. People should be able to take their children to schools
without hassle.
Without
a little bit of it, but
yeah, a little bit of it. But when you can afford, people should be able to put on nicely, you know, not too expensively. People should be able to afford housing. People should be. Let's not go so much into that now.
Yeah.
But when you look at the design of the parish development model, let me specifically go to pillar number 3, financial inclusion.
Financial inclusion.
When you read the handbook that explains it, 80% of it is talking about food.
Okay.
It is food. We are dealing with the subsistence farmers, we should say, subsistence households. If you read the definition of what a subsistence household is, you clearly see that they are talking about food. Let me demonstrate this further.
Please.
They talk about enterprises in this implementation. What are these enterprises that people can engage in? They are talking about feeds, animal feeds, you know, poultry feeds.
Yeah.
So when you talk about poultry, what are we talking about? That is food. They are talking about agrichemicals. They are talking about livestock. They are talking about fish farming. What is this? This is all food. So as a center for food, we had to come in, say, okay, let us do an analysis. Let us look at the parish development model. You've just said that everyone is up and everyone is talking about the parish development model. The parish development model. The president is going into the country, you know, speaking.
Yeah, sometimes you hear him and you can sense that he wishes he were the one responsible for the day-to-day implementation of this program, and instead of some of his officials and cadres, he seems to have it at heart and wants that same conviction into the people who are implementing. And there are those who are failing him.
Yeah, I may agree, I may not agree.
Okay, we can hear from both perspectives.
Yeah. If you're a father in a house and maybe you leave money home, but you have never gone to the market to buy a bag of charcoal. Of course. You can't be hard when you complain that maybe food delays, because you don't know whether the money you left is even enough.
Interesting.
For people to buy enough items to prepare a decent meal. So you see, for you to understand this, maybe go back to the basics. Maybe a household. Maybe don't speak like a president. Speak like a father in a house, who must take charge of everything. Because we have been in these communities, and what we are finding out is appalling. Yeah,
talking of being in communities, there's a baseline survey report that you'll be launching this morning, isn't it?
Yes.
What are the contents and what are some of the critical findings therein? Of course, it's been on implementation of PDM. But most importantly, what we want to know and what you should be able to educate the implementers, what are the loopholes and how can they be closed?
We couldn't have just come out to speak about PDM without doing some interventions. Okay. So we did a pilot. We've been in Kalilo, we've been in Mukono here, Nachifuma, and money is coming, you see.
You laughed at that. I don't know. I don't know how to take it, but when...
Uganda is very interesting. You see, you go to communities. Some people think Ugandans are fools, by the way, but they are not.
They are not, of course.
Those guys are in their communities. They know so much. They've not been engaged. They are not even part of the design of this model. Everything is being pushed to them. They've never participated. But even when you want to push it, you don't participate. You don't allow them effective participation. 80% of the Ugandans are into farming.
That's right.
And you are targeting them now. 39% of the households are in subsistence, and these are women. Let me demonstrate this further. When they set up the parish development model, the base, the foundation, they are 7 pillars. 7 pillars.
Yeah.
They create it as a house, and the base, the foundation, is parish development model data management systems. That is not anywhere. So when you start to implement, you have brought maybe 1 million, and some of them are getting 500,000. And then they set out and they said, okay, the parish development model is going to be anchored in a legal framework. Very complicated legal framework. But none of these people who come to educate or tell people is speaking about the legal framework. We are talking about the Cooperative Societies Act, because it has to be a PDM circle. In Uganda, circles are failing at a rate of 65%.
Oh my!
Because of governance issues and everything. And those circles that we are talking about are circles that are primarily on money, saving, lending, those
Group
things,
savings,
those groups. But when it comes to the PDM, it is a complicated one, because it has too many issues, including social issues, including spirituality. It is written in government, documents.
Wow.
Why do government people think that this PDM will be a success without understanding the framework within which it is supposed to be implemented? For you to have a PDM, you must have a circle, you must have an enterprise. Did you understand? And these small enterprise groups...
They're already... now let's talk about the basic settings within our communities. We have the mom and pop shops. These ones are owned mainly by mothers, and most of the time you can see them going about their work with their children, and then there are those that are owned by the men. A small butchery, a setting that, for example, does repairs for bicycles, that is in the far-flung areas. When you come to the more urban centers, it's about border, So this is the setting we are talking about. And these are the guys you are telling that please come together, and then you're telling a guy who does, he could be a cobbler, another could be a mechanic, and then the other could be a guy who simply deals in hides and skin to come together. They have different enterprises, and nothing is there to create a focus line and say, here is how we are going to operate.
Yeah, they have, when you look at how the setup is, they have their priority as government. And they are talking about livestock, they are talking about fish farming.
For those in livestock, come here.
And the people who've been talking with Chris are like, but those guys came with their, they are already predetermined enterprises. So if you don't go into their box, then they can't register your enterprise. And people,
help me explain that. Those who are complaining that they were told to take on enterprises that they weren't involved in.
Exactly.
What's the example here?
For example, someone comes and they tell you, you've been maybe a soybean farmer, and someone wants you to take on goats farming. I don't know that. And they will give you choices. Choose from these. If you are not fitting anywhere, get out. Secondly, we have instances, people have been refused to be registered because they don't have land. But we know we are trying to bring many people into the money economy.
Land ownership is a prerequisite.
It's a prerequisite. Some people do not have IDs. Do you know that many Ugandans don't have national IDs?
Yeah, I know that.
If you are going to roll out a PDM, financial inclusion, getting the 39% into money economy, you ought to work with NIRA. Go to these parishes. Everyone get the national ID. Many people have lost them. Some people take it lightly, but it is deep. Do you know the process of getting a new ID? By ordinary standards.
I've had complaints.
It will be difficult.
And that's why I hold on to mine.
So these are some of the issues that when we went into communities, people were promised 1 million shilling. But some have got half. Like 500. Just imagine 500.
Individuals were promised a million.
A million, that if you have your enterprise...
Collective circles were promised 17.
17. But
so
the money will
you
be
claim
given to
those who were told you'll get a million are getting 500,000.
Some are getting 500.
On what premise?
Well, the leaders have to explain. But this is what we found in the communities. We have the data with us, and we are going to be launching the report. Of course, it is a pilot.
And then how about the collectives? Are they getting the 17 or they're also being chopped?
Some are getting 17, others are not getting 17. And we don't know why. You understand?
Now, if all this is happening in the implementation process, one has to, when you look at the imperative, gender imperative,
yes,
the women,
yes,
if the men are already disadvantaged to that level, how disadvantaged are the women?
And that is a critical thing. Many women are going to be left out. Of course, they recruited many. They come, they will tell you, yes, we've heard about it. They've told us about it. But when you look at the process of getting the benefit as a beneficiary, many of them are going to be out of this particular PDM. And we already want to put up the flags high that please, Mr. Government and whoever you are working with, till up to parish level, you must make sure that women inclusion is not just talked about, but let us see it in practice. We have another big fear. The people who are being given money, you see, this money is a loan. They call
it's
it
a revolving fund. You have to return the, or rather pay back
with 6%.
6%, so that another Ugandan
can get the money, which is a wonderful idea. But are we forgetting that sometimes when you get a loan, it can be a bad loan?
All right. That's a new revelation. David Kabanda, we shall go for a break. But when we return, this conversation shall be wrapped up, including what recommendations you have for the government, especially when it comes to closing some of the very gaping holes in the implementation of a PDM. Do stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back. We're glad you're still with us. You are watching Morning at 10 TV, and we are in the Tech Note segment of the program. We are tracing the cracks in PDM implementation, and pretty much has been talked. I'll now allow my guest, David Kabanda, to give us a wrap and, most importantly, the recommendations in a report that is being launched this morning. You'll also give us a bit of detail on where you are launching the report and who ought to be there so that they can take on some of the recommendations and the contents of it.
Okay, thank you so much. Yes, we are talking about managing the cracks. If someone tells there is a crack there,
that's right,
please manage it quickly. We are not saying the program is bad. The program is very good. That's where I started from. But we have already identified these cracks, and we think they will widen if they are not addressed. One, we are calling upon government and all the duty bearers to embrace a human rights-based approach, including looking at participation, effective participation of women into the program, making sure that there is empowerment. Let these people be empowered to understand how circles work, but let us also encourage the spirit of accountability. President Museveni will not be everywhere. Let the people themselves hold those leaders accountable, and the rule of law, making sure that people understand how the PDM works and where it works. Then the second thing is, as we force them to bring back the money because it is interest and what,
as you force them.
Yes, because that is how it is going to happen. We might lose food security because every enterprise is looking at a food commodity. People will put much emphasis on taking back the loan, and they will sell everything. So they will not have food at home. So we want to encourage government and the implementers to make sure that the food component, the food security for the people in the households is taken care of. We also have asked government as a recommendation that these duty bearers need to be facilitated. We need more extension workers, because just having 3 or 2 extension workers in a parish, they can't do much. So what we want to ask government to do is please make sure that we have enough extension workers and facilitate them. If they are not facilitated, you will not do any work. And kindly we ask you, this 6th pillar, parish development information management system must be also facilitated. Having just a phone to use NILA demographic data is not what we are talking about. You must be able to trace whether what you are starting is working, who is bringing back the money, who is involved. Please don't give this small money to rich people. We have found out that rich people are getting the money instead. Because you are asking for land, you are asking, for example, if someone is supposed to get money to buy a cow, they are asked to have already established the house and everything. Now,
a cow shed,
a cow shed and everything. So people cannot afford. Maybe we should give some grants. We should maybe scrap the interest. We need to redefine and redesign this some of the issues.
All right. In 30 seconds, where are you launching?
We are launching at Golf Course. We are starting at 9. So everyone is invited to, we will be giving the report. We have invited National Planning Authority. They are on board. We've been doing this work together. Minister of Local Government is on board. The PDM Secretariat, the Uganda Local Government Association is also invited, and other development partners.
All right, David Kamanda, Executive Director at the Center for Food and Adequate Living Rights Uganda. Many thanks for the perspective.
Thank you
We'll be
so
looking
much,
forward to the launch of that report. That will do it for this edition.